Corey, we know you're not muted. Mine shows on the bottom who's muted and who's talking, has a speaker and mute thing on it.
We're about 5 minutes to go, gentlemen.
Thank you, 5.
Y'all want to have a staring contest?
But you're being recorded right now, so.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what that was.
We're ready. We're going to start. We're ready. Okay. YouTube is live.
The conference room can't mute?
Yeah, but we're live still right now. We're waiting for 6, and I'll count it down for Ms. Terry. And once I give my 5 count, we'll be ready to go. He's not coming.
Gentlemen, he's the fire station. I don't remember what the number is. Let me see if I can find it.
I got it, Terry.
Okay, thank you. Which item is he?
7E.
7E?
Yes.
You ready to roll? All right, I got 6 o'clock, so we're ready to go in 5, 4, 3.
Chase, we need to
2.
see you. Welcome to the very first virtual meeting of the Ascension Parish Council. I must tell you that I'm thrilled to see my fellow councilmen, to actually get to see them. So that's a real pleasure. It is rare that we go this long that we don't have contact with each other. So I'm thrilled to actually get to visit with all of them, and certainly happy to be able to present tonight your parish government at work during a pandemic. I see President Clintmore here as well. It's a pleasure to see him. Good to have you with us, sir. So this is the regular meeting, teleconference meeting of the Ascension Parish Council on April the 16th. We are starting now at 6 o'clock. Oops, and I've just knocked over my agenda. So I'd like to proceed similarly to how we typically operate by calling the meeting to order and asking Councilman Ogeron if he would please lead us in the prayer and followed by the pledge. I don't know that it's necessary for everyone to stand. I think we can just.
I was gonna suggest that you feel free to stay seated. That way we can see all your beautiful faces. And Chase. Please prepare yourselves for prayer. Lord God, we all realize that there are times in our lives where you present us with tests, challenges that we are to overcome as individuals as well as a community. We all know, Lord, that this is one of those tests that you're doing your will to bring us together so we can do your will as well. Lord God, thank you for the technology we have today so that we can continue doing both your work and the public's work as we struggle through the issues with COVID-19 and the issuing pandemic. With that being said, Lord, we know you love us and know deep down that we all love you and love each other dearly. Lord, please guide over us, protect us, and help us recover from these devastating times. In the name of Lord Jesus Christ, we pray. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen, guys.
Amen.
Amen. And remain seated. Place your hands. Prepare yourselves for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all.
Thank you. My agenda has gone away. It's on my phone. I have to get that back in action here. So all of the members of the council are present. We have done a roll call before the meeting, so we know that everyone is present. I think that the community can see that everyone is present. At this time, I would like to take just a moment to thank our IT department, Brandon O'Day, John LeBlanc, Jarius Carey, and Rory Dewey have done an amazing job with me personally to help me to navigate this software, and I know with all of my fellow councilmen as a group to make sure that we were able to pull off this first virtual meeting of the Ascension Parish Council. So I thank them very much. I want to extend my gratitude to Cinnamon, who our council secretary, who has worked many hours to help to make this happen. And has certainly been patient with me as I've learned how to do this. I want to take a moment to thank our parish president and his team who have been stalwart in their effort to protect the citizens of Ascension Parish in very difficult times. Certainly nothing that any parish president and his team has ever seen before, and hopefully will never see again. So I thank them for all of their effort. Thank you so much. All right, let's see. The public comment period is going on. And at this point, Cinnamon will be reading, the council secretary, Cinnamon, will be reading the entire agenda. And during that period of time, calls will be coming in if anyone has any comment that they want to make. And so Cinnamon, take it away.
The consent agenda, request for placement of a four-way stop sign at Pebblestone Avenue and Timberstone Drive. Approval of change order MC02 2019 asphalt reconstruction and overlay master contract. Approval of change order T00102 2019 asphalt reconstruction and overlay task 1. Approval of a resolution committing a 20% local match towards the proposed intersection improvement project, Roddy Road at Church Point Roundabout, ENG 12025 H.006459. The total federal cost share for this project is $1.6 million, of which $600,000 has a local match of $120,000. Approval of a resolution committing a 20% local match towards the proposed intersection improvement project, PR 929 at Parker Road Roundabout, MA 1703 H.006457. The total federal cost share for this project is $2.2 million, of which $1.2 million has a local match of $240,000. Approval to reallocate $120,000 from task order number 4, Oak Grove Wastewater Treatment Plant with Hartman Engineering, Inc., contract UTI L1700002 to task order number 3, LA Highway 42 through LA Highway 73. Approval of substantial completion for blower package replacement for Oak Grove Treatment Plant. Approval of substantial completion for blower package replacement for Oak Grove Treatment Plant. Approval of substantial completion of Hope Villa Wastewater Treatment Plant blower package. Approval of Project Tornado CF Industries Nitrogen LLC for participation in the ITEP under the Post-Executive Order 2018 rules. Approval of contract between Ascension Parish Government and ADG Baton Rouge LLC for electrical engineering design for Butch Gore and J. Leo Stevens Park Field lighting replacement for a not to exceed amount of $49,000. Renewal of professional services contracts between Ascension Parish Government and Southland Fire and Safety Equipment, Inc. for services to Fire District Number 1 to include instruments, valves, and nozzles, fire extinguishers, SCBAs, and breathing air cylinders, fire helmets, and other various equipment for a total contract amount of $18,000. Renewal of professional services contract between Ascension Parish Government and Roberto Macedo and Associates for project management and consulting services to administer the HUD Section 8 program. Contract for professional services between Ascension Parish Government and James Eves, MA, PLPC to provide mental health counseling and anger management group counseling at the Ascension Counseling Center. Approval of change order number 1 to the contract with HCM Buildings for the Modest Fire Station for an additional 22 days for substantial completion due to inclement weather. The substantial completion date will be April 13th, 2020. Approval of change order number 1 to contract with Boone Services LLC for an additional amount of $3,722.01 for Hope Villa Pump Station replacement, new sewer service at 38119 Debbie Street due to conflict with the new pump station connection revisions, and additional time required to connect to existing pump station due to unforeseen concrete conflict. The new contract amount shall not exceed $196,722.01, and new substantial completion date is April 6, 2020. Approval of change order number 1, Total Energy Solutions Company LLC for preventative maintenance to stationary and mobile generators located at various locations around the parish, to include a Kohler 180 kilowatt located at Lamar Dixon Arena C for an additional amount of $1,300 for a new not to exceed amount of $39,250. The general business section, a resolution authorizing and approving the issuance, sale, and delivery of the not to exceed $1,341,000 of revenue refunding bonds in one or more series of Fire Protection District Number 1 of the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana. Approval to submit grant application with Land and Water Conservation for Stevens Park Lighting Project, $500,000 funding with $250,000 match, and to authorize Parish President Clint Quintmall to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this project, and or Gwen LeBlanc, CFO, for financial documents. Approval to extend time period for Ascension Parish employees and spouses to receive wellness checks to August 1st, 2020. Authorization to proceed with the construction of a council chambers at the new Ascension Parish Courthouse and with AV equipment electronics for the entire courthouse not to exceed $3 million. Approval of lowest responsive bid for Ascension Parish Fire District Number 1, Santa Maria Substation Number 61, Blount General Contractors LLC. Acceptance of roads into the parish maintenance system, Talon Drive and Carson Drive. Approval to amend contract for Daigle, Fisi, and Kessenich for an additional $25,000 to continue to see parish reimbursement in the matter of APG versus Berkeley Insurance and HIRA. Approval of service agreement with Louisiana Claims Administrators as the third-party administrator for Ascension Parish Government Insurance. Approval of agent of record for Ascension Parish Government Hughes Insurance Company. Approval of insurance policies and premiums for 2020 and 2021 as presented by Hughes Insurance Company. Approval of selection committee recommendation for grants management and disaster recovery project management activities for the Office of Homeland Security, All South Consulting Engineers. The introduction of ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium intensity residential to crossroad commercial zoning review ID PZ 2206.20 for Dwight Poirier, duly authorized for the Robert Family Partnership Number 1, located on the east side of Cully Broussard, approximately 300 feet north of Highway 42. Introduction of ordinance to amend the building department fee schedule. Introduction of ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code Appendix 5, Drainage Section 17507, placement of fill, B1, D2, in Section 1750100 definitions, to add max chain wall height of 24 inches, to add a definition for chain wall, and to increase the compaction test for commercial properties. Introduction of ordinance to revoke a 15-foot servitude running along the eastern property line of Lot 4A1 and Lot 4A2, now Lot 4A2A, both owned by Henry E. Ingram Jr., moved to council via UDC 174050B2A. Introduction of ordinance to revoke a 60-foot servitude of passage and a 100-foot by 100-foot water well site servitude running along the western property line of Lot 55, owned by Paul Knapp, and the eastern property line of Lot 56, owned by Steve Hutchinson of the Woodland Shire subdivision property, moved to council via UDC 174050B2A. And that's it.
Good job, Cinnamon.
I don't have Terry loaded. Make sure she's unmuted.
Terry, are you unmuted?
Okay, Cinnamon, thank you so much. At this point, we have to wait approximately 17 minutes for the public comment folks to have all called in. Anyone who has a comment they want to make. Do you have any at this time, Cinnamon, who are already in the queue?
We do not.
Okay, so at that, then that means we're going to put that screen up, asking for directions to allow people to comment, and we will be back at 6:30. We are live again with our meeting of the Ascension Parish Council. We have been waiting for public comment. Cinnamon, would you report whether there were any call-ins for public comment?
There were no call-ins and no emails for public comment.
Thank you very much, and thank you again for setting up the opportunity for the public to weigh in here on any issue that they might have wanted to discuss. At this time, we'll move on to item number 5. Mr. President.
Thank you, Chairwoman Casso. Just want to quickly give the parish president report. If you've heard it once, you've probably heard it 1,000 times. There's no playbook or how-to manual on how to respond to this emergency. We continue to make adjustments, improvements to our work-at-home efforts, updating the phone system, texting and pushing out online training and certification to maximize at this time at the stay-at-home order. Purchasing has been instructed to put a hold on all large-scale purchasing requisitions unless the requisition is directly related to the COVID-19 emergency, such as cleaning supplies, medical supplies, or PPE, or needed for the projects that are currently underway. We received a list of the 2020 projects from finance. Overall, Ascension Parish has 34 projects totaling 115 or approximately 116 million on the books for 2020. Of the 34 projects, 7 are various road construction projects totaling about 32.7 million. Until the economic data shows us otherwise, we are currently moving forward with all existing transportation projects. There are also 15 projects valued at 32 million that are ongoing, and as of now, these projects will proceed as scheduled. Lastly, there are 7 projects valued at 29 million where construction has not begun. We will postpone the start dates of these projects until we have a better handle on the post-pandemic economic recovery. Also, we have about 31 million in our cash reserves. Working with Councilwoman Terry Casso, we've begun discussions with the Ascension Parish Sales Tax Authority as it relates to receiving actual sales tax remittance data on the monthly basis. This data will give us a better understanding of where we stand financially. We have reached out to Dr. Lawrence Scott to discuss his availability to develop a model to assist the economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Scott has an extensive knowledge of the Baton Rouge area economy, as well as extensive knowledge in the economic impact of the chemical industry. Considering how important the chemical industry is to our local economy, this component of Dr. Scott's report will be critical. Also, the school board has agreed to share in the cost. The administration has also participated in several discussions with local and neighboring elected and economic leaders to discuss reopening the economy. No hard decisions have been made, but several ideas have been presented. Our staff is on the phone today with Mayor Broom's staff to set up a broader regional call to discuss various ideas and approaches. Also, I cannot say enough about the OEP and their efforts. They have put in some very long days, and we do appreciate their efforts. Also, I have to give kudos to our IT department. We learned in this kind of pandemic emergency, IT is the new DPW. I also want to add, and I can't say enough about the input and cooperation that Chairwoman Terry Casso has provided in this process. Her experience and her insight has been invaluable to the administration, and she has helped us make it through this pandemic, and I know she will continue to assist the administration as we recover from this pandemic. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Clint, very much. It's been an honor to work with all of you during this very difficult time, and I found it very positive experience in a very challenging situation. Does anyone, any member of the council have any questions? You certainly have your little raise your hand. Let me see if I see any, you don't see any questions at this time of the parish president. Ah, there's Chase. Go ahead, Chase. Councilman Longcom.
Yeah, Mr. President, you said that that's 115 million in traffic improvement jobs that we're continuing and 29 million in drainage that we're going to put on hold.
No, we have 115 million approximately. It's 115 and 592,000 and 34 projects total. Right? 7 of those projects are transportation. So that's kind of broken down. The 116 is total. So you got 7 road projects that total 32.7. We're going to continue. And then you got 15 projects that we're currently working on they're in construction or in a further process of about 32 million. So there's 7 projects that we have taken a look at that is valued at about 29 million that we're going to go ahead and postpone until more economic data comes through in order to proceed with those particular projects.
Okay. Is it possible that maybe we could get a list of the drainage projects that we might be putting on hold?
Absolutely. We'll have that information to you.
Thank you.
Sure.
So, Clint, I only had one question that I think you did not cover. So we have been paying hazard duty pay. That was a decision made by the administration and certainly was aware of that. And I would like to ask you to develop to let us know what the developed criterion was for those the persons who were chosen to get that kind of pay, and how many of them they are and who they are, please. It's not important tonight, but that is something we're going to want going forward.
Okay, so I can give you kind of like a little recap. And we started noticing this from kind of day one and had to kind of figure out how we're going to provide essential services. So I did jot a little something down, so I'll refer to my notes here.
Sure.
Starting from day one, we instructed our biomedical professionals to conduct a survey of employees to determine risk, to predict the probability that our employees were COVID-19 positive. The survey screened employees from existing respiratory conditions to a runny nose or a cough. We were instructed by medical professionals to ask employees who answered in an affirmative of any question to be quarantined for 14 days. This included high-risk employees as well. The first Monday, we sent approximately 40 employees home. From day one, that was the standard of being quarantined. Not long after, the stay-at-home order was instated requiring employees to stay or work from home. Some of our employees can perform work duties from home, but yet essential services, we needed to figure out how we were going to do that. Grass cutting, things like that. We got calls that the grass was too high at intersections. It was causing a safety concern. There were some drainage issues that we had call outs on, trees that were down in canals, things like that, and other instances, which I'll touch on briefly. So we also had to continue doing inspections so that we wouldn't fall too far back on that. So if we would have stopped, we would be 2,700 inspections behind. To kind of give you an idea if we wouldn't have continued that. The health unit, utilities, drainage, permits, maintenance, and all of our nurses provide these essential services. So how we determine all that, each department with employees who could work from home were asked to put together a plan that first and foremost protected the safety and welfare of the employees and put people to work to avoid falling behind. Each department had a different approach based on the unique circumstances. 168 of the 577 employees participated, 29%. Very few worked a complete 40-hour week. In some departments like DPW, we broke them into shifts and alternate days. In other departments, we had employees work limited hours, like the custodians who came in each building where office work and was being conducted, empty trash, and did basic cleanup. Most of them are out of the building before staff got to work. The recreation department would have employees drive to the park, cut grass until lunch, and we had them do this for liability reasons. That's kind of how that went about. And of course, with the health department, as we know, some of those services are essential. To end those services would have been devastating. Our nurses on staff, we positioned them at the jail, and I can express to you how well the job they did. We got compliments from the sheriff's department if we would have had an outbreak of COVID-19 in our jail, it would have cost us a considerable, and then like $600,000 amount of money to move those inmates around. It would have been a devastating financial impact. And so those nurses did a phenomenal job in checking and making sure that no one entered the jail with COVID or possible cases. And so we haven't had any major cases reported there, and that's been just one of the highlights. But those are some of those essential people. And with this stay-at-home order from the governor, there is those people that put themselves in harm's way. They put themselves out there. They put their families out there when they would return home. And so not all parishes followed suit with hazard pay, but we felt that those employees deserved it. And they, in doing their duties, saved us a ton of money and saved us a lot of liability from different aspects, continuing to provide us essential services.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other questions? Mr. Robert.
I had a question about the road projects that you're putting on hold, and the reason being, I'm assuming that these people are working because they're essential workers anyway. Wouldn't it be safer to do the projects now where there's no traffic?
No, I think you might have misunderstood me. No road project is being put on hold. None.
Okay.
All road projects will proceed.
It was the drainage you're putting on hold, the ditches?
No, there's a select, and we're going to break this down and send it to all of y'all, but there was, let's see, 7 projects that we identified that were being put on hold that construction had not begun. And so we're going to break down all of that of what I said and send that email out to y'all. Of course, we just try to get all this information specifically, but y'all will have that list in each of those groups with each of those projects emailed to the council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for recognizing me. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. It's working. It's a very minor thing relatively, but not to the groups I'm talking about. I've had the opportunity to speak with some of our recreation groups, baseball, softball, soccer, the spring clubs. Currently, we collect $5 a player from them. I'm asking the administration to maybe by the next meeting explore the possibility that we either waive collecting the $5 a player from them, or we don't collect it next year. In some way, give them a little leeway on this. By my numbers, it would cost about $20,000 in a $2.4 million recreation budget. But I know from talking to these organizations, it would help them tremendously, not just for right now, but planning for the future. Some of these organizations have already put out money for uniforms that they're on the line for, but they're not receiving any income, and they do receive income during the year by hosting tournaments, by running concessions, that sort of thing. I don't think it would cost us that much, like I said, around $20,000, but it would be a tremendous help for them. So if the administration would take a little time in the next couple of weeks before our next meeting and see if this is something that's feasible. Otherwise, y'all are doing a great job. Thank y'all.
Thank you. And a lot of these programs, and just like that one, we're hoping to get our first round of taxing data. And I think that'll give us a better idea. It won't give us a complete picture, but at least something to determine this impact. And I mean, I'm all in support. Councilman Lauder, work with you in anything. Would rather it be a council decision on waiving fees. And we'll be happy to do whatever the council wants to do there. But absolutely, we'll work with you on any plan with recreation that you come up with.
Thank you very much. I'll get with people in the council. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Aaron, if you'll just get with me about adding that as an agenda item.
Yes, I will.
I'm happy to entertain that. So I would like to recommend that we meet in May at our regular scheduled meeting. The first Thursday in May, and that perhaps we focus in that meeting on the finances. That might give us a little more time, Mr. Quintmont, to have a better understanding of where we are, where we might be going. And so if that meets with the approval of Councilman Cagnolati, who's the finance chair, We could also have Ms. Gwynn report end of the year and our most recent month data at that meeting. Is that okay with you, John?
Yes, Chairman Chairwoman Cazzo, that sounds good. I've been speaking to John Diaz a little bit about this, and it's kind of early right now to get a picture of where we are. So it may take a little bit more time, and hopefully by the end of the first week of May, we can have that data. But what are your thoughts, Parish President Quinmont?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to start taking a look at that data immediately and look at not only a comparison from the month before, but a year back, last March, and do some heavy comparisons on the fall off of what impact we can expect to come. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. So we'll expect to meet the first Thursday in May. We'll do that virtually, just as we are doing today, with the focus on the finance. So, Mr. President, is that all for you?
That's it.
Any other questions of the Parish President? At this time, we will move on to the consent agenda. The chair would entertain a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
Motion, Madam Chairman.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion. Go ahead, Aaron. What you got?
I'm sorry, item J, I'd like to remove to the normal agenda, to the general.
Okay, that's fine. Happy to do that. With the exception of item J, are there does anyone object to the rest of the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, that motion passes. And item J, we will take up. How about let's just go ahead and take that up now. Item J is the approval of a contract between Ascension Parish Government and ADG Baton Rouge LLC for electrical engineering design for Butch Gore and J. Leo Stevens Park lighting replacement for a not to exceed amount of $49,000. That was a recommendation from the Finance Committee. Aaron, obviously you have a concern.
Yes, a couple things, and I'll try and be brief on this. There are a couple concerns with it. Number one, there's no hourly rate on it. So at this time, we don't know what APG, or is it ADG? I'm not really sure. I think it's ADG.
ADG.
Yes, ADG. I get the two confused. It's very close. What the hourly rate is, and being that it's a not to exceed $49,000, it's conceivable the hourly rate, if it's at $500, we can be billed at 99 hours, and that would take up the entire thing for two parks. The other part of it is I'd really like to see the design for the electrical engineering for all of our parks done at one time, as opposed to doing multiple contracts on this. I think that's best for the parish, and we're going to make sure that we can get all the parks done. I'm trying to do this quickly because this is very awkward to talk into a computer.
Don't worry about that. That's what we're here for.
I've done my research on ADG. They seem to have a lot of experience in this type of work. I think they'd be a great company for it. They've done Ullman Stadium down at Tulane. They've done the baseball field down at USL or ULL now. But my concern is not with them. It's the other part of it is that we're doing this without a bid. And the only reason I say that is part of this item here is that we move on and we go for a grant with federal money. Many times federal grants require that a certain process, a bid process, is done. And even if it's not a bid process, you still have to meet the federal guidelines on how we pick the companies and whether or not you can use those funds that you paid for the engineering to go towards the matching funds, which in this case is $250,000. So I prefer not to see us spend up to $50,000, approximately $49,000, and not be able to use that as matching funds towards this project if we did meet those federal guidelines. So I want to make sure that we're meeting the federal guidelines. Overall, I'd really like to see this go back to recreation, and what we do is we add in all the parks, and maybe they can do this for $49,000. They can look at all of our baseball, softball, t-ball fields, and any other fields that need light replacement, which are most of them, and design those. Hopefully they can do that for $49,000, and then come back to us and do this the right way. I think we're doing this the right way. We'll make sure we can get all of our parks done. If they can't, it has to go out for bid if it's over $50,000. The second part of that is, like I said, I want to make sure that we're meeting federal guidelines, that we can use this money as matching funds. Anything we spend as matching funds that can be used to go get that grant that we're trying to get. So I'd make a motion that we send this back to Recreation, presuming that we'll have a meeting next month. If not, I send this to the next meeting, meaning that it could either be Recreation or it could be the next council meeting. But number one, I'd like to find out whether or not this money is going to be spent in a way that it can be applied to recovery of federal grant money. And number two, I want it to apply to all of our fields.
I'll make a second on that motion.
So the chair has a motion and a second to defer back to Recreation or to the next council meeting, whichever comes first. Is that good enough for you? All right, thank you
Yes,
very
it
much.
is. I'm sorry, I don't read it.
All right, well, no problem. So are there any objections to? Yes, Mr. Ogeron.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Whichever comes first would be the next virtual council meeting. I'm not certain if 2 weeks would be enough time. I would move that it's either the Recreation or a council meeting following that, and maybe the second council meeting in May, whichever would come first in that matter.
Good with that.
So I'd like to amend the motion to give it to that extent.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Very good. So we have that. Are there any objections to that amended motion? Hearing none, that motion passes. All right, I've got to get my...
Can y'all hear me?
Yes. I've got to get my agenda back up here. I lost it in all of this. All right. So now
Are y'all having technical difficulties?
No, you're there.
I missed everything Aaron said. I was in and out, and I just heard something about a motion.
Yes. There was Aaron, do you want to repeat the motion, please?
Yes, I will. First of all, everything I said was brilliant. It was just amazing.
I'm glad I wrote it down for you.
Oh my God.
Without going through it all again, I just made a motion to send this lighting contract back to Recreation, basically, or the next meeting after Recreation, so that we can include all ball fields in it, and to make sure that the money that we spend on this is applicable to receiving grant money under federal guidelines.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, and that motion passed. So now we move on to general business. Item number 7, a resolution authorizing and approving the issuance, sale, and delivery of the not to exceed $1,341,000 of revenue refunding bonds in one or more series, Fire Protection District 1 of the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana. O'Neill.
A resolution authorizing and approving the issuance, sale, and delivery of not to exceed $1,341,000 of revenue refunding bonds in one or more series of Fire Protection District Number 1 of the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana.
Is Mr. LeBlanc available for comment?
It's not this one, Ms. Terry.
It's not this one.
It's item E. No, ma'am, it's
This is
item
a
E.
refunding of bonds that will save the fire district
sorry.
about $120,000.
All righty. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself on that one. So,
Do you need more on this one?
all right, are there any questions about this item? Anyone you need to speak to?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item B. Where'd it go? I ended up back on the consent agenda. Y'all give me just a second here. Item B, approval to submit a grant application with Land and Water Conservation for Stevens Park Lighting Project $500,000 funding with a $250,000 match, and to authorize Parish President Clint Quintmall to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this project, and/or Gwen LeBlanc, CFO, for financial documents. And is Miss Martha available?
Ma'am.
Hi, Martha. Great to see you.
Thank you. Everybody be safe.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of Martha relative to this item?
Motion.
Mr. Ogeron.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Miss Martha, I'm sure you heard the concerns that we had regarding the contract, the engineering contract, and the questions we had involving whether or not that contract would fall within the guidelines for the grant application. Do you know the answer to that question at this time?
I can't speak on that contract. I have no idea what it was to be used for or what was the purpose. I mean, it does mention it. I heard y'all talk about it, but you can use sometimes in a grant, if it's procured properly, you can request to have that portion, whatever is spent ahead of time, as a match. It was spent previously in order to get you to the project. You didn't have time maybe to do for time maybe to bid it out or for something like that for the actual grant. So you expedited the engineering portion ahead of time with the intent to go back in and use it, request for a match. Now, we've done that before, but the procurement was done properly.
Let me ask you this then. Is there any hindrance to your going forward with the grant application now that we have held back the engineering contract?
Not as far as I know. Our grant is to replace the poles at J. Stevens Park, Leo Stevens Park. And as far as the application is, we've just gone into the preliminary portion of it. We haven't gotten down to the budget portion of how much would be engineering, how much would be construction. You know, we haven't gotten that far. We're just in the preliminary part of this. So I can't answer your question on that, sir.
Actually, you answered the question. You said we can go forward with the grant. Yeah. We can go forward with the application while we're deciding what we're going to do with the engineering. So that's perfect. That's what I needed to hear. So thank you so much, Ms. Martha.
Okay.
Mr. Robert.
Somebody else?
Thank you, Chairwoman. I have a question as far as the scope of this project. How many fields is this lighting for? These poles that we're replacing, are we replacing poles with metal poles or wooden poles? I know usually if you're switching to LED, you're only going to have less weight. You don't have all the ballast. You don't have all the extra weight up there. Are we sure we need to spend that much money on lights whenever we could? And I know it's just for a grant, but I'm just saying to look into it and see how much we're getting for this.
We did. I think this came before the Recreation Committee, or I think
it came before the meeting before.
Ricky Compton talked about about this grant. It was to replace, I think, 30 lights with LED. The poles will be wooden poles, will be taken down, and there'll be metal poles. They'll upgrade that portion, but giving you specifics about the design of it or they might. I don't know that. I'm
thinking a big chunk of that's going to be the poles. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry?
I'm thinking a big chunk of that is going to be those metal poles, obviously.
Yeah. Well, when we get to that point.
But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Cagnolotti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The way I read this is an approval to submit a grant application. With that in mind, I move that we move forward and give her the approval to go forward. That's my motion.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second to approve the grant process beginning. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item C, approval
Thank
to
you.
extend the time period for Ascension Parish employees and their spouses to receive their wellness checks to August the 1st, 2020. Mr. Quintmont.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Yeah, this is just due to the COVID, is to extend that so that the employees can put the money in their health savings accounts.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item D, authorization to proceed with construction of council chambers at the new Ascension Parish Courthouse and with the AV equipment and electronics for the entire courthouse. This is a not-to-exceed amount. I brought it to you after much discussion with the parish president. Mr. President, do you have anything that you want to add here?
No, so, obviously we have discussed at length the $800,000 is for the audio and visual. So in adding the council chambers, we need to subtract that out and look at the 2.2. The preliminary numbers are somewhere in the range of 1.6 to 1.7. We have additional funding in there for materials, executive tables, chairs, and things like that. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to spend the entire amount, but obviously it's budgeted in there for upgrades in technology, so we can continue to provide, superior TV and audio for our meetings, and any other security measures that may be needed to be added. So that's what that additional funding is for. And we just wanted to make sure that we budgeted accordingly, just in case we had any extra items in those two concerns that we may need to allocate that money for.
Thank you, sir. Chair would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Have a motion and a second. Are there any objections? Mr. Robert.
Turn on your mic, Joel.
I just have a question.
Sure.
Out of that $3 million, it's coming out of the same budget for the audiovisual equipment? It's coming out of the council budget, and I mean, if that's the case, why are we paying for that instead of it being with the court cost and having the court cost help pay for it like it was initially supposed to be?
Yeah, this was debated a lot. We felt that part of the system overall, due to some of the delays in putting the council chambers, this was kind of a concession that we're giving them for adding the council chambers on there. And so other than that, I can't give you another reason. Yes, we wish it would have been budgeted earlier on. It was not. And when they found out the number, I think that we were all a little bit shocked at the price tag. Nevertheless, these are experts in doing this around the state. We have done several. We have actually taken some trips to look at some of their work. It looks to be more than adequate, their work product. So we had no reason to object to the amount. So yeah, that's all I got on that.
That's all I have, and no objection, Chairwoman.
Thank you so much. Are there any objections to this item? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item E, approval of the lowest responsive bid for Ascension Parish Fire District Number 1, Santa Maria Substation Number 61, Blunt General Contractors, LLC. And this is the item that Chief LeBlanc had desired to speak on if he was present. And if he is not, the chair will call on Councilman Malasaw to share his knowledge of this project.
He's here, Terry.
Welcome, James.
Hey, good evening.
James, I get to talk to you or hear from you every day on the OEP call. It's great to see you.
Hey, I think President Quitmall said it best a while ago. Hats off to the OEP division. They have been working around the clock along with the IT group on them 4 o'clock calls, so we appreciate it.
It's amazing, absolutely amazing what they've done. So, James, we are at that item on for Blunt, and if you'll go ahead and explain that, please, I'd appreciate it.
So basically, this is the this is the 5th fire station that has to be replaced from the 2016 flood. This is the fire station on Highway 22 that goes to Livingston. This is the one that took on the most water. As you know, we're getting to the completion stage of the main fire station in Geismar, the main fire station in Sorrento, and the main fire station in Sandoval. You've already approved for us to move forward on the substation in Galvez at the corner of 931 and 431. And this is the last fire station for us to do on Highway 22. And this is basically the bids that came in for this station. This Blunt Construction is the same company that got the Galvez substation at 931 and 431. And then, as you know, J. Reed Construction is doing the 3 main stations.
Thank you. What's the amount of the station, please? I don't see it in my paperwork.
Should be somewhere around, I don't have it in front of me, but I thought it was 1.6 million or 1.5 million. I think Chase knows the exact amount, but it should be, there was like 12 or 13 different vendors, and Blunt Construction came in at 1.7.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Mr. Molosno, do you have any comments you want to make?
I know. I would like to make a motion, but to approve, and also we're talking with Chief LeBlanc. I would also like to bring up that so the PIAL, the Property Insurance Association of Louisiana, they do our insurance. I'm sorry, they do the insurance ratings for all 64 parishes in the state of Louisiana. And so they have been giving us a little leadway here the last few years, understanding that without some of these stations, it would or could affect our insurance rating, which would affect our homeowners insurance and everything else. And so it's pretty much time to pay the piper, right? We need this to help us sustain. Or I believe right now we're at a level 5. I believe if Chief LeBlanc wants to verify me with that, but if we don't proceed with this, we could put our level 5 rating in jeopardy, which would cause all of our homeowners insurance to go up, and also putting a lot of people on the east side of Highway 431 without having that substation there. So I just want to let everybody know that, and I would I'm gonna make a motion to approve. And I would appreciate y'all's support.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Thank you for your comments. Any objection? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item F, acceptance of roads into the parish maintenance system, Talon Drive and Carson Drive. Is Tacey available?
Yeah.
Hi, Tacey. Great to see you.
Hi. Good to see you guys. Hope everybody is healthy.
Absolutely. So far.
This evening, I'm recommending acceptance of Talon Drive and Carson Drive into the parish maintenance system. We went out and did a punch list on those 2 roads about a month ago, and they wrapped everything up earlier this week, and it looks good. So I think it meets our standards to be accepted into the system.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Thank you, Tacey, very much. Stay well.
Thank you.
Item G, approval to amend the contract for Daigle, Fissy, and Kesernich for an additional $25,000 to continue to pursue parish reimbursement in the matter of APG versus Berkeley Insurance and HIRA. Mr. Parrington.
Yes, this contract has reached its maximum amount and is still pending litigation. So there's a hearing scheduled next month on this.
Second.
Motion to approve. And if I may add, right now, as all the attorneys will tell you, everything in the court system is not moving forward by order of the governor. So we're going to expect delays on this. It will not move forward. I would give this several more weeks until it can move forward. So motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Mr. Ogeron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. O'Neill, do we know what stage of the litigation we're at right now? I mean, what's the, have we gotten any reports giving us an outlook?
Well, the lawyer was going to come, but doing an executive session under these circumstances was almost impossible to do, but this is scheduled for a summary judgment next month. That's
Okay,
what the next hearing is, a motion for summary judgment on coverage.
so there's an MSJ scheduled, probably won't hear it next month.
I think it will be heard. I think if the judges are rescheduled, unless they continue to stay at home order, they should have a hearing next month.
Great, okay, good deal, buddy. Thanks.
Thank you.
No
Help me
further
to.
questions? No objection.
Thank you. So I need a motion and a second to approve.
I think we already have
Already got
it.
it? That's right. I was going to thank y'all for helping me to recall that. So we have a motion and a second. No further questions. Are there any objections? Mr. Turner.
Well, not an objection. I had a statement as far as the courts. I think they are starting to do some of those hearings via Zoom, so everything is not canceled. It just kind of depends on exactly what the hearing is.
Very good. They could do it. If we can do it, they can do it.
Yes.
Fantastic. All righty. So thank you for helping us understand that better. I have a motion, a second, and no objections. That motion passes. All right. Item H, approval of a service agreement with Louisiana Claims Administrators as the third-party administrator for Ascension Parish Government Insurance.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions? Mr. Ogeron.
Yes, help me refresh. I know we discussed these at the previous finance committee. Were any bids set out for this service agreement, or did we just select them unilaterally? Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Yeah, I'll have, John has been working on it. I think he has those numbers. Let me get him on. We'll have those numbers for you.
Appreciate it. It's just for a recollection. I appreciate it.
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Yeah, so we had 2 bids go out to this firm as well as Gary Lee, the current TPA.
Okay, and the bid process went through and LOCA came with the lowest bid. I mean, what was the status for the bid?
Professional services contract. No. So I have Brett Hughes here. He's saying that we didn't have to do a lowest bid on professional service contracts.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, you want to? Yeah. Do you have? Yeah.
And I can add to that. As far as the professional services contract with LOCA, we had bid out to a couple of different firms. We did not go, I guess, if you want to say, the true lowest bid from a standpoint of you're comparing prices, what you currently are paying to what LOCA's prices are, but the scope of services that LOCA is going to be offering were a good bit different than what we're currently getting. So when you look at it through cost, yeah, they're essentially the same, but if you compare, hey, this one's costing less than the other one, you got to look at the scope of services at that point. So we're going to get a lot more for the bang for the buck, if you will. If you recall from the presentation we did a couple months back on it, that's one of the things that Josh had talked about, how they handle things from a technology standpoint compared to what we're currently doing.
Great. I wanted to make sure you refreshed us and the public. Thank you very much, Brett, John, and President Quintmall.
Are there any? So the chair would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any further questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Thank you, Brett, very much for being available.
Are you guys social distancing over there in that President Quintmall Square?
Absolutely.
Oh, I can tell you, they social distance, because anytime I've been at the governmental building, we've all stood 6 feet away from each other. We've done a really good job. All right, item I, Approval of agent of record for Ascension Parish Government, Hughes Insurance.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions, any objections? Hearing none, that motion passed. Gentlemen, if you please mute, we're starting to get a little noisy. Item J, approval of insurance policies and premiums for 2020 and 2021, or the 2020/2021, as presented by Hughes Insurance Company in their presentation at the Finance Committee meeting. The chair would entertain a motion
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Again, I thank you, Brett, for being available had there been any question. Item K, approval of selection committee recommendation for grants management and disaster recovery project management activities for the Office of Homeland Security, All South Consulting Engineers, Rachel Wilkinson.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion by
Second.
and a second to approve. Rachel, do you want to comment on this selection process, please?
We're just looking for approval to move forward.
Thank you. And does anyone have any questions? Mr. Lawler?
Yeah, did we do a selection process on this?
Yes.
Yes,
Can we get the results of that?
It's all in your packet.
it's in your packet.
My packet was received maybe later than the other ones, I guess.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Never mind.
Okay. So, Rachel, while we have you here, I want these gentlemen to take an opportunity to applaud the amazing work that you and your team have been doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. We have an amazing staff in OEP. So the EOC has been activated since March 13th. So we have been responding to COVID-19 for over a month. So great coordination roles with administration, with our staff, and with the public. So we've been at it for over a month. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Rachel. So we had a motion and a second. Are there any other questions? Mr. Mason?
I don't really have a question. I just wanted to tell Rachel, thank you again. We had a citizen in the parish that needed some oxygen a couple weeks ago, and I shared the post on Facebook, and Rachel and OEP had it taken care of within 5-10 minutes of me posting it. And so I just want to give them another kudos for that. I did give them a kudos on Facebook, but I want to tell Rachel personally, well, virtually, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Aaron, you disappeared on us. So,
can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Yep.
There you go. Now you're back.
Oh, shoot.
Okay, so
Okay,
we
he's
have,
back.
do we have any objections to this motion? Hearing none, that motion passes. Moving on to an introduction of ordinances, and reminding all of you that this only takes one person to motion to introduce. Item A, introduction of an ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium intensity residential RM to crossroads commercial CC zoning review ID PZ 2206.20 for Dwight Fourier, duly authorized for the Robert Family Partnership, number 1, located on the east side of Cully Broussard, approximately 300 feet north of Louisiana Highway 42. Mr. Robert, you recognize.
Yes, ma'am, I'd like to recuse myself.
Thank you. Have a motion to introduce. Item number B, introduction of an ordinance to amend the building department fee schedule.
Motion to introduce.
Have a motion to introduce. Item C, introduction of an ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 5, Drainage Section 17-507, placement of fill, B1, D2, and Section 17-50100, definitions.
Motion to introduce, madam.
Have a motion by Mr. Melanson to introduce. Item
I'm sorry.
B,
Give me a second.
introduction of an ordinance to, O'Neill, had I read enough of that, or do I need to read some more?
No, you read it. It was fine.
Okay. Item D, introduction of an ordinance to revoke a 15-foot servitude running along the eastern property line of Lot 4A1 and Lot 4A2, now Lot 4A2A, both owned by Henry Ingram Jr., moved to council via UDC 17.4050B2A.
Motion to introduce.
Thank you. Item E, introduction of an ordinance to revoke a 60-foot servitude of passage and a 100-foot by 100-foot water well site servitude running along the western property line of Lot 55, owned by Paul Knapp, and the eastern property line of Lot 56, owned by Steve Hutchison of the Woodlandshire subdivision. Property moved to council via UDC 17.4050B2A.
Motion to introduce.
Have a motion to introduce. Thank you very much. At this time, item 9, the chair will introduce the motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Cagnalotti. Gentlemen, thank you. No
adjournment yet. No adjournment. I want to commend each of you for everything that you've been doing this last month. I've been following my fellow councilmen, councilwoman, as well as the administration. I truly appreciate the involvement that each of you are showing to your communities. I know that Councilwoman Casso is working her tail off. I know that for a fact because I can never find her. So I know she's out there busting it. Same thing for President Quintmall. So, from those of us in District 4, we really want to thank everybody for coming together and pulling things together to make this happen. So God bless each one of you, and God bless Ascension Parish.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you very much. Any other comments anybody wants to make? Then, gentlemen, I thank you for this effort to do this virtually, and we will meet again on the first Thursday in May, and we will do that virtually as well, and then we'll see where we are on the second Thursday in May. My feeling is that we will likely still be virtual, but if that changes, then we'll certainly notify you and the public. Thank you very much, everyone. Stay well. God bless.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Bill, face down.
Please note, the meeting is no longer being recorded.